What's good with the YouTube with Convicts Perspective? It's your boy Flaco, coming in with my co-host Big Senor Rojo. As always, with a little bit of energy. And we decided to do something maybe just a little bit different. We found an interesting article. It's based upon some research, and it's discussing nationwide prison gangs, not just in California, but just an overall picture of what they've, what they found through research. And what we're going to do is we're going to give our perspective, because when it comes to analytics and statistics and stuff like that, we feel that they're tainted when it comes to people who are doing the research. This should be an interesting article. Let's see what they figured out in this article.
All right, man. This is by David Pyros, University of Colorado at Boulder, and Scott H. Decker of Arizona State University. And the title is, "We spoke to hundreds of prison gang members. Here's what they said about life behind bars." Here we go. The United States incarcerates a larger proportion of its citizens than any other developed country in the world, with about 1.5 million people serving time in prison. But to anyone who doesn't work or live in a facility, life behind bars largely remains a mystery. The public gets a glimpse of life on the inside only when there are riots, executions, or scandals. As criminologists, we spent 9 months interviewing over 800 prisoners in Texas in 2016. They told us about their lives before and during prison, as well as their impending return to the community, a journey shared by over 600,000 people each year. We also learned about a significant reality in prison, which is gangs. Our book, published in 2020, pulls back the curtain on how gangs compete for the control and structure prison life. Gangs wield power behind bars, but they are more fractured and have less control than people believe. Despite fairly extensive research on street gangs, there is little research on gangs in prison. Conducting research in prison is rare because it's hard to gain access. Prison of man, peanut bay, man, you gave me hella peanut butter or something, bro. This is 2 days in a row. I'm gonna buckle down right now. Conducting research in prisons is rare because it's hard to gain access. Prison officials tend to be risk adverse and loath to let outsiders into the walls. Even if researchers get inside, there's the possibility that prisoners will not participate in interviews. When the topic is gangs, these issues are even bigger. This was not our experience. About half the people we interviewed were affiliated with gangs. Gang and non-gang prisoners told us, "I'd rather talk to you than sit in my cell." They saw the interview as cathartic. They were able to get things off their chest to a neutral party. Prison gangs exploded across the US with the rise of mass incarcerations in the 1980s. Texas prisons were mostly gang-free until bloody battles broke out in 84 and 85 between the Texas Mexican Mafia and Texas Syndicate, as well as the Aryan Brotherhood and Mandingo warriors. 52 prisoners were murdered in a 20-month period, and this became known as the War Years. A lot of killings. Over 50 different gangs were represented in our study. Most of these gangs were active in prison and on the streets. All of the 12 security threat groups, or STGs as they are termed by prison officials, fit the classic view of prison gangs: organized, conspiratorial, and violent. The remaining gangs are called cliques. If security threat groups are like criminal organizations, cliques that are like a brand of criminal without a clear leadership, direction, or structure. Race and ethnicity matter to all gangs. Geographic proximity is the great social sorter for street gangs. It is race and ethnicity for prison gangs. Nearly all the prison gangs were composed of a single race or ethnicity. The people we spoke with made it clear that prison gangs in Texas are not what they used to be. Prison gangs were described as watered down, no longer having the teeth to enforce rules, especially the security threat groups. Few prisoners, including gang members, believe that gangs brought order to prisons or made them safer, a claim often made about prison gangs. The perception of power is stronger than it is in reality. While gangs may not have iron-fisted control over prison life, it would be wrong to think they lack influence. If gang members compose only a minority of prisoners, around 20% in Texas, according to our research, how do they wield power? The answer: violence. Gangs use violence to resolve disputes, discipline members, and protect their interests. Stories of violence are passed down across generations to ensure the memory lives on. The War Years occurred more than 30 years ago, yet still loom large in the mind of the people we interviewed. Gangs bring a different flavor to prison violence. There is a multiplier effect. A violent incident involving a gang member expands the pool of future victims and offenders because of the collective gang identity. Being in a gang means assuming these liabilities. For the uninitiated, prison is scary. People are stripped of their identity, roles, and status from the outside. About half of the prison population is considered a violent offender. Joining a gang would seem like a pretty good decision. Our research reveals that about 10% of inmates in Texas joined the gang for the first time, while another 10% imported their gang affiliation from the streets. Status and protection were common reasons for joining a gang in prison, much like on the street, but ideology was also important, such as race supremacy or vigilantism, which we rarely observe in street gangs. Still, the most prisoners don't end up in gangs. That's true even though avoiding gangs is harder in prison than on the streets. Non-gang members get their affiliations checked and are often recruited when they step into a prison unit. Those that want to avoid gangs cite their religion, homosexuality, or even status as a SEX offender. Most gangs ban inmates convicted of SEX crimes as reason not to join. It is once believed that once you join a gang, you could never leave. Criminologists have dispelled this myth among street gangs. Young people leave gangs regularly and usually without repercussions like violence. We also found this to be the case in prison, even for the security threat groups. Disillusionment is a leading reason for leaving. Gang members eventually realize they are sold a bill of goods on gangs. Snitching, victimization, solitary confinement, and delayed parole crystallize discontent with gang life. Leaving a gang is more difficult in prison. Walking away is not a credible option. Gang members sought permission or give notice of intentions to leave, or enrolled in the prison system's 2-year exit program. Despite decades of effort, breaking the grip of gangs on prison has been unsuccessful. The silver bullet simply doesn't exist. Placing gang members in solitary confinement is thought to be a solution, but that's a management approach. It's like applying a Band-Aid to a severed artery. And one size fits all approach to rehabilitation ignore the baggage of gang affiliation. To compete for control, gangs need members, which is why focusing on points of entry and exit offers hope for reducing the power of gangs and attracting new members and encouraging current members to leave. Doing nothing allows the problem to grow and fester. Prisoners today will eventually become the neighbors, religious congregants, and employees of tomorrow. We want people to leave prison in condition better than they arrived. That means effective responses to gangs. That's it.
Man, let me make a quick correction. This wasn't a national research. It was actually on Texas prison gangs.
Yeah, the other one we looked at was a national one. You just had it backwards. But yeah, I mean, Texas gangs are probably the closest to California gangs as far as get down and policies and philosophies and stuff. You know, I've interacted with a lot of gangs from a lot of different areas, you know, Chicago, Detroit, Houston, and California. And the similarities, man, outside of like the Latin Kings with the Northerners, would, as far as prison-based stuff, the closest cousin would be Texas, bro. You know,
but it seems like they're losing a little bit of control and influence, man. Like,
yeah,
you know, they said only 10%. The percentages that they thrown out from their research, which we already know. I'm a firm believer research doesn't always give you real facts. You know what I mean? Because you don't know who they're actually interviewing, what yard, what prison they went to. These could be low-level security yards and all that. It may be different on the higher security yard. But 10% of those that enter prison become gang members. That means you have a population of 90%. Then you have another 10% that they said that come in as gang members. Now, how big is the uprising of the Tango Blast in there now?
Huge.
Huge, right?
Yeah.
So they've been able to reject any prison political gangs in there, right? Am I correct?
Easily, yeah.
So,
I mean, there's going to be certain units, you know, in Texas, like Darrington, Cofield, you know, whatever they might be, where, you know, the Texas MA or the Texas Syndicate may have control of certain little units, but on the full scale of the Texas Department of Corrections, Tongo is by far the dominant group there.
What's that other one? The one with the ORE, whatever. What is that?
Orihuanes?
Are they?
That's
Tongo
okay.
Blast?
No, what they are, man. Excuse me. They're like
right?
former like foot soldiers, basically, to The Mexican mafia, the Texas Mexican mafia.
Okay.
You know, and they kind of did the same thing that Tongos did, in a sense that they didn't want to listen. Like Tongos kind of, for the most part, now this isn't factual everywhere, the Tongos didn't want to listen to the Texas Syndicate, right? The Orijones didn't want to listen to the Mexican mafia of Texas Mexican mafia, Texas MA. So they have their own little thing. You know, it's on site. Like San Antonio, bro, I know it's not mentioned much or anything, but it's like one of the biggest cities for Raza in the country. You know, outside of like LA, bro, there's more.
No, I know. It's right. It's right to the border.
So the gang culture, the Chicano culture, the all that, man, is huge in San Antonio, and they're deep, bro. They're a force. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they just said that they were going to be kind of independent as well. You know what I mean? So in some places, like they'll see eye to eye with like the Tongos, because they all have like a common enemy. It's like against the families or the Famas. You know what I'm saying? But
What are
for
the
the most
Famas?
part, they're independent, and they're deep enough to be independent.
What are the Famas?
It's like, that's what they call like organized gangs there, like the Texas Syndicate, the Texas Mexican Mafia. You know what I mean?
So what's the Barrio?
I think they consider Tri-City Bombers and Barrio Azteca. I think they might even consider them Famas, but I'm not sure, bro. I know for sure it would be Tango Blast and Texas Mexican Mafia, as far as Latino groups go.
I mean, Texas Syndicate and Texas Mexican Mafia, right? Not Tango Blast, right?
Yes, Tango Blast doesn't consider themselves like an organization.
So like the Tango Blast, like, okay, I know we're talking about the Texas Syndicate, which I know they migrated from California, believe it or not. They had Texas roots that were in California, but some of those, what ended up happening was a lot of those people that were from the Texas Syndicate, that after they got done doing their time in California, they got deported. Well, not deported. They got transferred back to Texas to do the rest of their time. That's from my understanding. And the Texas MA, they are kind of separate from the Mexican Mafia in California and Arizona, from my understanding.
It's a totally separate group. You know, in some places they've achieved working relationships, and others they haven't. You know, like in the feds, I guess that they're cool with each other, but they are separate completely.
It's the same
separate
thing
leadership, separate, you know, everything.
The same thing with the ABT, right? The Aryan Brotherhood of Texas, right?
Right.
And then you have what the Aryan Circle in Texas
Aryan
as well.
Circle, yeah.
And then what are the Africano gangs? Because I heard them say the Mandingos. Did they say the Mandingos?
There used to be Mandingo warriors, man. I don't know if they're still around. You know what I mean? I know they were around when I was there. I haven't heard a lot about them lately. I mean, that's something we could ask Tim Snow or look up. But
it seems
I mean,
like
it's a lot. It's out there. The black gangs are really similar to those in California. You're gonna have your Bloods, your Crips, your Gangster Disciples. You know what I mean? And you know, they're gonna be more of what we would call STG, security threat groups.
Do they function under political structure though, or
I
no?
don't think so. No.
So there's a common trend here. Like in California, they don't have no political really structure like they do. They have, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, the Cubans may have a little bit, the BGFs and all that. Even sometimes the Crips have to a limited extent, man. I'm just trying to, since this is based upon Texas prison gangs, I'm just trying to get a better understanding. I know
Texas is deep, bro. You got the Texas Syndicate, the Texas Mexican Mafia, Tango, and then you got Tango in Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, then the Valley, then, you know, then Tongos that are just in random places. You got Tri-City Bombers, you got Barrio Azteca. I mean, they're deep, bro. There's a lot of big groups out there.
It seems like to this article, right? Like they're saying like that these prison gangs don't yield as much power. And I think a lot of that has to do with all these independent STG groups that are able to refrain from the, you know what I mean, that prison mandated push. You know what I mean? If majority are independent groups that are STGs and they're running those yards, and we already know Texas is probably majority Raza now. You know what I'm saying, in the penal system.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, the blacks are really, really deep as well. You know what I mean? But it's close between black and Latino. You know what I mean? But the thing is like, whereas Tango doesn't consider themselves a gang, I would beg to differ personally, my opinion on how I would evaluate that, because they run stuff and they don't allow things and they do allow things and they move in one fashion. You know, to me, that's a group. I don't know. you can label yourself what you want. You could be an MC, you could be a knitting club, you know, that kind of thing. But Tango has a firm blast, a firm hold, bro.
And what is the
There's,
tango?
there's places where they have problems, but I mean,
what does that the tango stand for? Do you know?
just it's basically your town. It's basically a way of saying town, kind of your hood. Tango's like, I'm from Houston. That'd be
Well,
my
I thought it was like together against no gang
against negative gang. Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean? I've seen that acronym from a couple people. Man, I'm just like, I mean, for the
people
viewers
are gonna
out
make
there,
acronyms out of everything, you know.
For the viewers out there, I don't know too much about the Texas, you know, prison gang history, and you know, I know vague information, so I'm just asking questions off the things that I heard. I know Tim Snow knows a whole lot about it, man. Good channel to watch, Texas Prison Stories, man. But
when I came up as a youngster, bro, the only significant group there really was the Texas Syndicate. You know what I mean? The other ones, there was a couple around. The Texas Syndicate ran stuff for the Latinos. The Aryan Circle ran stuff for the white boys. The Mandingo Warriors for the blacks, and then the Paisas, it was like Hermanos de los Pistoleros, like brothers of gunmen. You know, the translation to English, ran stuff for the Paisas. I never really heard of Barrio Azteca. I never heard of Tri-City Bombers. There wasn't all those other groups back then.
That's a lot of groups there, man. Like, to me, like,
there is.
You know, that would take it back to me. It almost seems like the 80s in California, to where you would have cars.
California's got the same thing now if you put together SNY and GP.
That is true. I never thought of it from that standpoint, man.
Yeah.
Does the Texas prison system, do they have SNY facilities?
No.
So
I mean, they got places you could go where you might be safe, but you can't just go lock it away nowhere unless something's changed in the last year or two.
Well, you heard that they said the 2-year step down program in that article. So that must be like a 2-year process of debriefing and probably getting integrated to different yards, man. That's the one thing that I felt like I doubt from this article. They said, like, you know, people could walk away from gangs if they want, as far as these prison organizations. I don't think it's going to be any different as far as whether you're in New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, California. If you commit to one of these, what you would call prison organizations,
I agree.
For a prison gang, I doubt there has to be a blood and oath. You know what I mean? And sacrifices for betraying that organization in a lifetime commitment.
I agree.
Because that's what makes becoming a member of these type of organizations a big thing, because it's that lifetime commitment where others can't make that commitment.
Hey, think about this, Flacco, man. None of these groups, bro, that are labeled gangs, organizations, or anything now, none of their initial objectives and things of that nature were to be like a gang, really. You know what I mean? It started off as like cultural stuff, you know what I mean? Empowerment of your people, things of that nature, rebelling against the system, you know, against the white folks, against the administration, whatever you might call it. I mean, you look at the same thing in Texas. I mean, Tango doesn't consider themselves a gang, yet they control units, they remove people, they do all that stuff, and they do criminal activities together as one group on the streets. It's only a matter of time. Like, you might start off as something, but through time you morph and you change with the times, bro. And
that's
if
true.
You're controlling whole prison systems, bro. You're moving in an organized fashion, period.
Well, see, that's the birth of any type of organization, any type of movement, any type of cause. We'll say cause and movements, because not every cause and movement becomes an organization, but a lot of times they tend to.
Right.
You have to have the threat of an oppression from an opposition.
Yeah.
Every movement, every cause, something gave birth to it. You get what I'm saying?
Texas Syndicate wanting to peel your cap, and you starting your own thing. I mean, what is that?
Well, same thing. I hate to say it though. Same thing as far as with the AMA, the NF was formed, and same thing with all these other factions like the Bulldogs and Northern Riders and all these other gangs. You know what I mean? Yeah. They have their different ideologies as far as the oppression and taxation or whatever it may be. Like I said, every movement or cause is built off some form of oppression. Someone has to feel a certain way of how they're being treated for it to be even created, and for people to want to be receptive to it.
Exactly.
So if you have people who are putting dictates on people, I mean, not everybody's going to come in the system and say, oh, you know what, I'm going to be a solid striving homeboy. I'm going to follow directives. I'm going to follow orders. I'm going to get in rank and file. You're going to have those that are going to want to resist it because they don't like being told what to do. And if you offer people a safe haven for it, you know what I mean? Such as some of these SNY gangs, or such as the Tango Blast, or you know what I mean, the Bulldogs, or whatever it may be, you're giving people something that maybe they're going to be attracted to, as opposed to this other thing over here.
Hey, I'll tell you what, the reason that I wanted to climb up the ladder and the reason that I did climb up the ladder is because I got tired of people telling me what to do. I'm no exception to any rules. You know what I mean? I don't want go do this. Man, I'm tired of going to do that, bro. That's all I do. You know what I mean? I don't want to do that no more. So I'm going to strive to be a little bit higher, where when you tell me to do something, it's something cool. Not, hey, go do this or go do that. I want to go do the bullshit. I'm not the maid. I don't want to be the maid.
You don't want to be the pocket holder. You know what I mean?
Man, bro, hold my pocket.
I used to feel sorry for those homeboys, right? When I'd have to go talk at the gate on the yard, and they have to sit post for about a half hour while I'm talking business. You know what I mean? And they're sitting post, and I'd sit there.
Their feet are hurting. Their feet are hurting.
I'm having to talk to. I'm the RSD, so I have to talk to the RC. He's in a wheelchair, so he's in a walk alone cage, and so we have to talk about everything that's going on. You know what I mean? And next thing you know, you'd have these young homeboys that are striving, man, and sure enough, they'd be posted for about an hour. You know what I mean? Knowing damn well they want to go play basketball, knowing damn well they want to smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I get that, bro.
Yeah, I mean, that's human nature, bro. I mean, you don't always want to be the guppy, you know. You don't want to eat what everybody else misses and get that shit that's floating at the bottom, bro. You want to go up and get the meal, you know.
So this Texas thing is kind of it's crazy, man. I'm just looking at like all those different groups, man. You know, I mean, that would be it just reminds me of California back in the 80s a little bit, man, when you had so many different groups, and you know, the politics were not as, there was politics back in the 80s and 90s, but not like it was today. You know what I'm saying? The resolution for problems on the yard was either fucking get on your way or let's get off. It was as simple as that back then.
Hey, I've done time in Texas. I mean, not in the Texas Department of Corrections, man, but I've done a lot of county jail time there. I've done Texas Youth Commission, which is the same thing as the California Youth Authority, except there. Texas ain't no joke, bro. Texas is different, man. Okay, everybody knows California prisons politic the hardest. It's by far, no doubt. It's undeniable. Texas is a whole different beast, bro. You can fight, bro. You can go in there and you can throw hands, and people call you to throw hands, and you got to throw hands. Yeah. People are gonna check you, bro. When you come in, you're gonna fight straight up. You're not gonna be able to.
They call it a quarter check. The heart check I heard in there, man. Like
essentially, yeah.
And so basically, they said that they had those people with funny style charges. Are they allowed to be out there in the yards as opposed to how California is?
Yes and no. They're gonna get abused, bro. They're not going to eat. They're not going to have a table to sit at. They're not going to use the phones. They're going to get slapped a lot. You know what I'm saying? Real talk. They're going to get their shit took. You know what I mean?
They're going to get punked. They're going to get their manhood took too, huh?
Probably not, but they're going to get slapped in the middle of the day room. People are going to slap them, slap the shit out of them, bro, in front of God and everybody. You know what I mean?
So that's the part I want to ask.
It's going to be bad for them. Yeah, they will be out there. People will hit them and stuff like that.
Because even Tim said that, man, like when we were talking to him the other night, man, he's like, man, he goes, it's a little bit different as far as, it's similar in the feds, he said, as far as the California politics, but in there, it's like, you have your homeboys that'll rock with you, but at the same time, you got to stand up on your own as a man first and foremost.
Yeah.
As opposed to California, you could have a homeboy that's not with the business, and ain't no other group going to slap him around if he can't defend himself.
Hey, out there, bro, out there, like say me and you are from, say you're from San Antonio, I'm from Austin. You tell me, man, hey, I want to catch a square with you. That's what we used to call it. I'm sure the terminology's changed over the years, but I have to fight you, bro. If I don't, man, I'm gonna get slapped in the middle of the day room. People are gonna take my commissary. I'm just a bitch now, whether I'm in a gang or not. You know what I mean? You have to accept challenges from the fists. If you're in a group, nobody's just gonna book you, but they can call your ass out unless it's wartime and it's like booking. Hey, we're booking these fools only. But like if me and you don't get along and you say you want to see me, I gotta see you. Whether you're benching 500 and I'm curling fucking 50 pounds, you know what I mean? You have to be able to stand independently in Texas before you're truly embraced. Nobody's gonna jump you. Nobody's gonna jump you, but hey, bro, man, Texas is a different animal, bro. I'm telling you, man. A lot of them prisons, they don't got AC. It's 100 degrees, 98% humidity, bro. They put you out in the field and drive around on fucking horseback, bro, with shotguns and make you work. You know what I mean? Texas is rough, bro. Texas is a rough place.
Anyways, I think we pretty much covered this topic for the day, man. I mean, it's about Texas prison gangs, man. A little bit of research, a little article, kind of interesting, man. In contrast to how things are in California, I see similarities, but I see a lot of differences, man. But the bottom line is, man, don't be out there committing crimes or being involved in gangs, man. It's time for you guys to change your lifestyle and live a whole different life.
Hey, and one last thing about this, bro. Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, all them states that border the Gulf of Mexico, those are rough prisons, bro. Some of them, they will take your cheeks. All you 18-year-old kids out there, especially you little white boys, bro, you better not go there. Swear to God, I'm telling you, them prisons are rough. In California, you can hide behind a group. You can't do that down there, bro. Better wise up now. That's my positive message for the day. Don't do nothing wrong, especially down south.
Don't get your cheeks took.
They'll kick your back door in. All right, you two. We'll holler at you.